Hello there. Welcome to this episode of Force Ghost Conversations. This is your host, Anthony King, and this week I'm going to recap all of the news and announcements that have come out from Star Wars Celebration 2025. If you're a fan of the podcast and would like to consider pledging your support, there will be a link in the episode description for you to check out the various tiers offered. Also, please be sure to check out our T Public store to buy some Force Ghost Conversations merchandise. And without further ado, it's time to gather around the campfire for some Force Ghost Conversations. Welcome back to Force Ghost Conversations, everybody. It is our Star Wars Celebration 2025 Extravaganza recap episode. And wow, is there a lot going on in the Star Wars and Lucasfilm galaxy, especially with all that they announced this past weekend here. And there were 3 incredible days in Tokyo, Japan, and we've been following along vicariously for the folks that have, or I should say vicariously with the folks that are there currently. And also, thankfully, the live stream has been just a wonderful resource to keep up with absolutely anything and everything that has come out in regards to Star Wars Celebration. I've been up all hours of the night watching that live stream. I've been basically on Tokyo time. I'm living in the future right now. I feel like I'm 13 hours ahead of where I'm at this point in time. Definitely been working a third shift kind of lifestyle, if you will, over the past couple of days. And to top that all off, as you probably tell from my voice, I have not been feeling well over the past couple of days. So, a wonderful combination of staying up super late, not sleeping too great the next day, but also dealing with like a head cold at the same time. A truly wonderful combination, folks. But I digress. There is the only real thing that can get me to do such a thing like this is Star Wars, and with all the fun announcements and panels and just general goodwill that has taken place in the Star Wars and Lucasfilm adjacent galaxy over the past weekend, this is the time and space by which to recap and cover all that stuff, so that you folks at home that maybe didn't spend all waking hours of the night are now caught up and just can be one with the Force and celebrating all things that is Star Wars and the things that are looking forward to by which to come out in the near future. So, folks, this is our recap episode. So, obviously, there is no Cloud City Gossip this week. This is all just one big Cloud City Gossip episode. So, thanks for coming along on this ride and for just going through all the announcements that have taken place over this past weekend here. For perhaps this a first episode for many of you listeners to Force Ghost Conversation. So, first off, thank you. Hopefully, you checked out our one of our many things that we did over the weekend in terms of CouchCon coverage, as we like to call it here. So we've been very active on Blue Sky and Threads, live threading, live blue skying, whatever they call it, the live stream, and keeping us up to date with all the updates and announcements that have been taking place on those platforms. We also have done a Instagram live, Ask Me Anything, the Thursday night on the East Coast, I should say, prior to the start of Star Wars Celebration. And we also have done a full kind of live threading, live blue skying of the first episode of Andor for a watch along. So hopefully you partake in that, or you enjoyed some of the commentary that we made along the way while rewatching that first episode in anticipation of season 2 of Andor, which of course premieres on Disney Plus on Tuesday, April 22nd. So very fastly approaching. Those first 3 episodes, that first arc is coming out, and I can't wait for it. Also, in terms of just general news, Light and Magic season 2 is now available on Disney Plus. That dropped on Friday, so you can go watch that right now if you really wanted to. I would not be opposed if you paused this podcast right now and then go watch those first couple of episodes and then came back here. We'll talk about that at some point in greater length on the podcast, of course, but really excited for that. And that was one of the big panels that took place this past weekend in Tokyo. So this is kind of part 1. I will record the information that has taken place for days 1 and 2 of Star Wars Celebration Japan, and then we'll have a short interlude, and then we'll come back with our part 3, covering our part 2, I should say, covering all the things that have taken place over day 3 of the convention, as well as the reveal of the location for the next celebration, and when and where that's going to be. So, well, that's kind of the game plan for this portion of the episode. So thanks again for hopping on here, and for joining us. So yeah, this is like I said, if this is your first time listening to the podcast, this is Force Coast Conversations. It is your home for cozy deep dives into all things Star Wars and Lucasfilm adjacent things. So, in addition to talking about the themes of Star Wars and what it can mean, or what we can extrapolate from it to then make our own lives better and to make ourselves better as humans across the board, but we also will talk about things like Indiana Jones and Willow, and really anything that I think falls under the Lucasfilm umbrella. So that could also include things like, or Lucasfilm adjacent things. So perhaps The Creator, Rebel Moon, and other things that could potentially come out in the near future. So, with that, folks, thanks again for hopping along here, and let's dive into the news that has taken place over the past week. And I want to start with the big panel of Star Wars Celebration. So, this is the big kickoff, I will say, the thing that's supposed to drive the majority of the news, the conversation for the weekend, etc., is usually that first big panel at the celebration stage. And this, for Celebration Japan, was the Mandalorian and Grogu panel. So brought out Kathleen Kennedy first, and she did note, at least she commented, that there are numerous Star Wars films currently in development, including the Charbine Obey-Chinoy film, the Ray film, ostensibly called, Simon Kinberg's trilogy, James Mangold's film, and Taika Waititi. Very telling that those specific films are in currently active development right now. Noted, in my opinion, not on that list include the Ryan Johnson trilogy, which I'm not really confident that that's ever going to happen, and also the Patty Jenkins Rogue Squadron film. That's like, will it happen? Won't it happen? And I think that one might be put to bed at this point because of a later announcement that'll happen here. Because right after Kathleen Kennedy talked about those films are currently in development, she's like, "Hey, we're going to bring out Sean Levy," and Sean Levy comes out and he confirms that his movie is not just in pre-production, but actually in active production and in development, and it's going to start shooting later this fall, actually. He's not able to provide any more real details at this time, but he does say that it'll be a standalone adventure after the events of Episode 9. I believe from later interviews and conversation that's roughly 5 years or so past that endeavor. And it's going to be with new characters, a new space of the galaxy, new villains, new adventure, all that stuff. They're really hyping on this. It's not a prequel, it's not a sequel, it's just its own thing. Ryan Gosling has been confirmed to be the lead in this film, and he came out on the celebration stage and he showed a picture of his Empire Strikes Back bed sheets, confirming that he has been a fan from ostensibly the start. And they confirmed that the film will come out in May 28th, 2027, almost 3 days after the 50th anniversary of the release of Star Wars A New Hope. So it's a perfect release date for this movie, in my opinion. And we even got the title. It is called Star Wars Starfighter. I'm all on board with this. I could not be more of a big fan of this movie to begin with. I think Sean Levy is a fantastic filmmaker. Go check out his filmography. It's really spectacular. Ryan Gosling has won me over as an actor. I definitely had my criticisms over the last couple of years, but ever since Blade Runner 2049 and beyond, I think he's really just showcased his variety of acting chops. So to bring him into the Star Wars galaxy is very exciting for me right now. And Starfighter, now I know that was a video game in the early 2000s, but that was a prequel based game. So I have to imagine that this, because of the title, is going to be about something in terms of pilots in the Star Wars space. Now, let me bring back my original point about Rogue Squadron. This sounds very similar to what the story could potentially have been for that. Now, if Rogue Squadron was going to take place during the original trilogy, then that's a different thing. But I doubt that they'd have competing pilot projects going on at the same time. So, with that being said, I couldn't wait for. I'm already seated for this movie. This is such an announcement I didn't expect was be happening. This wasn't a showcase panel. This wasn't let's bring out all the directors and talk about what they've been doing over the last 2 years since Celebration London. Um, I know Sean Levy had just finished Deadpool and Wolverine, So I kind of figured that he might have been starting to work on this, or he might have been taking a break. It's been kind of quiet on that front here, but to be ready to go, full script production in fall, they must be really excited about this project and property, and therefore I am super on board with it too. And they also showed a little like tease of the perhaps the Starfighter itself as they walked off the stage, and perhaps you can see a little bit of that imagery if you look across the internet there. So then this is the after that we move on to the Mandalorian and Grogu. I will fully note too that this presentation was not live streamed at all, but somehow I was able to find someone live streaming it on TikTok, so I was able to watch the entirety of this panel from the comfort of my home. And Dave Filoni, Kathleen Kennedy, and John Favreau all took the stage to talk about this movie. And they confirmed that Zeb from Rebels will be in the movie. The droids from Disneyland, which I think was also confirmed already, but double confirmed here in this space as well. Sigourney Weaver herself took the stage. It looks like she's playing some type of rebel pilot based on the pictures that they showcased there. And we learned from some of the conversation on the live stream stage that she was a part of the rebellion, the original trilogy rebellion, and now she's kind of hiring the Mandalorian and Grogu for various tasks in taking out the Empire in the outer regions. So the Mandalorian himself, Pedro Pascal, also took the stage. It's almost uncommon for him to be there. Let's just say he hasn't been at a celebration, I believe, since 2019 in Chicago. So he's definitely not been involved, I will say, too much in this convention space for Star Wars. So it's wonderful to have him back in the fold and all that stuff. And he's not just the voice of the Mandalorian, he's actually in the suit too. And they showed some pictures of him behind the scenes with that as well. So we got to see some footage for those that were in the room, and also since I got to see the stream, that worked as well for me on that end. Now there's a little bit of a spoiler here, so if you want to jump ahead a couple of seconds, just because they did not they said it's too early yet for a proper trailer. I don't know what they're talking about. This seemed great to me. So I will say it just featured some footage of the Mandalorian taking out an Imperial Walker on a snow planet. There was images of Grogu swimming, which was awesome. And at the end, there was a bit of a tease of Rada the Hutt, who we've been kind of teased as being played by, or voiced at least by, Jeremy Allen White, who you may know from The Bear. But Rada was absolutely beefed out. Let's just say he was definitely ripped, very muscular, not like Jabba, not like any of the Hutts that we've really seen so far in the Star Wars galaxy, but very much a different take on this, on the Hutt character. Um, and it looked like he was in some arena of sorts. I don't know, we'll get more details eventually later on, but full full from beginning to end here, right? You get Rada the Hutt introduced in the Clone Wars. He's the son of Jabba the Hutt, and then to have Rada appear in this, it's a full 360 for Dave Filoni and team to bring that into the fray. So we got some information on the live stream stage. Hayden Christensen dropped by. They had a really cool like vegetable origami, vegetable chopping station on the stage. So that was really awesome. Uh, Sean Levy and Sean Levy and uh, Ryan Gosling, of course, also has dropped by the live stage. Very much hyping that Starfighter is not connected to the Skywalker saga at all. That was very much a part of the marketing pool that they've been doing for this film. So really cool on that front. They showed a trailer for the DLC for Star Wars Outlaws, which is called A Pirate's Fortune. It features Kay Vess, who joins forces with none other than Hondo Onaka, a fan favorite character, a favorite in my family, in our household. And this is, of course, a DLC to the game Star Wars Outlaws, which I unfortunately haven't played yet, but this might get me into it. I need to finish Indiana Jones and the Great Circle first, but I'll definitely be diving into that in great length and detail. We'll talk about it on a future episode of this podcast. So in the DLC, they'll be taking on a rival pirate gang, and it explores the growth of Kay Vess, who is the main lead of Star Wars Outlaws, as a leader. Now, Jim Cummings, who is the voice of Hondo Naka, is reprising his role as the great pirate himself, And there will also be some skeleton crew inspired cosmetics available for free in the game very soon here. So this DLC will be available on May 15th. Can't wait for that. There is also a free Tatooine demo available right now for this. And if you want to watch the trailer for Pirate's Fortune, you can check that out on YouTube right now. There's some new Black Series figures from the EU announced at Star Wars Celebration. There also is some plethora of new Hasbro action figures. Some particularly that I can think of are Mullet, Cal Kestis, and Turgle from Star Wars uh, Jedi, the games, so Fallen Order and Survivor, which are fun games. Um, Also, Cobb Vanth was also a figure reveal, and I think that figure just looked really incredible in the 3 3/4 inch line. Some new Lego sets. I think also Lego confirmed that the U-wing will be in Andor season 2, so definitely something to keep your eye out on that front. Um, so very cool, very cool. So Kathleen Kennedy was on the celebration stage, and then she had a wonderful quote that I want to share with you all. And she said, "We do this for all of you. There's no Star Wars without everyone in this room. You give us the confidence and the energy to tell these stories." I thought that was really poignant, and for especially a person that is constantly under scrutiny from across the fandom and beyond. She's always at celebration and always is front and focused and centered on telling great stories and for driving the legacy of Lucasfilm forward. So wonderful stuff. It looks like there is a new Art of a New Hope manga book coming, which I think is awesome. Monopoly Go, the popular video game on mobile devices, and Star Wars will have a limited time crossover event coming May 1st. There is a new manga coming out in the near future as well called Star Wars Path of the Lightsaber. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is getting a manga adaptation, so also fun stuff on that front. And a Thrawn manga from the novel Thrawn by Timothy Zahn is getting a manga adaptation too. So not only does it have a book form, it has comic form, and now it will even have a manga adaptation as well. Um, we had Dave Filoni and Pedro Pascal on the live stage at one point, and Sigourney Weaver, or I say Dave Filoni shared, confirmed, like I said earlier, that Sigourney Weaver's character fought in the rebellion against the Empire. And Pedro Pascal even teased that The Mandalorian and Grogu is some of the best Star Wars adventures since the original trilogy. So really cool on that front, I will say. Now, we got a whole panel on Light and Magic Season 2, which featured ILM VP Janet Lewin, Lucasfilm Design Director Doug Chang, BFX Supervisor and CCO John Knoll, and Jar Jar Binks and Color and Beck himself, Ahmed Best, Lucasfilm Business President Linwin Brennan, and ILM Creative Director Rob Coleman. So, they talked all about the new season of Light and Magic and the various things that we got to highlight in this new documentary. And I will say, can't wait for season 2. Personally, I haven't watched any episodes yet at this point, but with season 1 being some of my favorite behind the scenes documentary featurettes at all, I can't wait to see this. And Sam Witwer is right. He said they tried to solve unsolvable problems with the object of creating magic in the panel, and I couldn't have a better definition of ILM than that specifically there. So kudos to Sam Witwer, and we'll get to Sam Witwer a little bit later on too. Uh, the focus of season 2 is more about the digital revolution. So if you've seen Light and Magic season 1, you'll kind of know that really around episodes 5 and 6, they try and start to transition into the digital revolution of visual effects in film and filmmaking. So, especially with episode 6, where they talk about Jurassic Park, and then that's kind of very much where the show ends and just has like a gallop to the finish in terms of the last 30 plus years of filmmaking. No, this one is more specifically about the digital revolution, citing the Phantom Menace, Pirates of the Caribbean, and Twister, among others, that will be featured within this within this story. And In season 2 of Light and Magic, you'll see actually from the footage Doug Chang after his first incredible meeting with George Lucas, and he detailed a little bit of that story in the panel. I can't wait to see that kind of story come out to play as it actually did in the series. The storyboard sequence from the Phantom Menace is talked about extensively too. You know what I'm talking about if you've already watched some of the behind the scenes stuff of the Phantom Menace. And Ahmad Best talked a little bit about Jar Jar in this story, and I think Jar Jar is a very much a forefront character of this documentary. And he said that the inspiration for, or the archetypes for, his portrayal of Jar Jar Binks was a mixture of Buster Keaton and Jackie Chan, which I think is a really eloquent way to put what actually they got for the mandate and put on the screen there. So really wonderful stuff there. Across the board from this, there is a trailer that was unveiled, but of course you can now watch it live on Disney Plus right now if you have a subscription. A wonderful poster too was released with featuring Yoda from the prequels, Jurassic Park dinosaur, um, the Davy Jones from Pirates of the Caribbean, and they're all exploding out of a computer. So really great stuff. On the publishing side of things, there was a bit of a publishing panel today. At least this first day of Friday, for Star Wars Celebration. There's a new ILM book chronicling the last 50 years of ILM, which will be like a coffee table-esque book. Awesome stuff there. Phil Shostak is doing an Art of Andor book, and it will cover both seasons of the critically acclaimed series. So you'll be able to see that very soon. And it features some, well over a couple hundred art pieces from the various pieces of the 24 episodes. So wonderful stuff there. Adam Christopher was there to talk about the new story that was released last week called Star Wars Master of Evil, which is about Vader, and it helps to fill in some gaps from the Charles Soule Darth Vader comic series, which also takes place after Revenge of the Sith. There was some High Republic talk there, which was really awesome, and just really excited to see all these stories really flesh out and continue on in some way, shape, or form. So on the animation side of things, we got the confirmation that season 3 of Young Jedi Adventures is coming this fall, which I think is awesome. There is a panel celebrating 20 years of Lucasfilm animation, and we got to see a little bit of a Boba Fett arc animatic that was from the unreleased Clone Wars series, or not from the unreleased Clone Wars series, but it was unreleased from the series Clone Wars. And they really went through in this panel just talking through some of the growth that they've done over the last 20 years in Lucasfilm animation. Athena Portillo was there as well. Fun fact, the droid AP5 is named after Athena. And once they kind of went back throughout the last 20 years of Lucasfilm animation, then they cut off the live stream, and then it went to, for just the folks at home, or not at home, but for those at the panel, they got to see the first episode of Tales of the Underworld, which apparently people were saying is awesome, and it's all about Ventress, and it's about how she survives the events of Dark Disciples. So we'll quickly get that answer as to how that happens. So the famous meme, somehow Asajj Ventress returned. So very cool that the streets are loving that, and ultimately we got a big announcement drop here, folks, in this panel. There was just a little tease of it at the end. And I mentioned Sam Witwer would be coming back into this fray very soon here, but we got the announcement that a new animated series is coming, and it's called Maul Shadow Lord, and it's going to come out in 2026, and it will connect the events of Clone Wars to Rebels. Now, they got to, for the folks in the room, they got to see a little teaser reel of things that are coming. It looked like Merrick from Ahsoka is involved in some way, but can't wait to. This is incredible. This is an announcement that I was not expecting. This was not on my like expectation board whatsoever, and the fact that it's going to showcase Maul kind of creating Crimson Dawn, or establishing Crimson Dawn, and showing the underworld of this time frame between the events of Revenge of the Sith, especially the end of Clone Wars, perhaps, to where we find Maul in Rebels season 2. Sign me up. This is perfect. This is a question that we've all been wondering. I gotta imagine that Kira could be involved, and because there's 16 years or something like that from where this story could potentially start to where it could potentially end, they could do this show for a long time. So really really excited for this. Sam Witwer is definitely getting his flowers for this endeavor here, and we're going to learn some different things about this character. So it takes place a year after the events of Star Wars The Clone Wars, so just to get you a sense of where this show starts off. But where could it go for the next, who knows, however long it needs to go in order to tell the story that they want to cover, then sign me up. I cannot wait for this. So that was all of day one right there, all of the big news announcements for the first day. Maul, Maul, Shadow Lord, Star Wars Starfighter, a lot of books, ILM Light and Magic Season 2, that alone would be enough to cover a wonderful day of Star Wars, a whole weekend of Star Wars celebration, right? But that was just day one. So again, burning the midnight oil, we came back for day two of Star Wars celebration. And this was awesome because for the folks at home on the live stream, we actually got to see all of the major panels live streamed to us that day. And that started off with the Andor season 2 panel. And this was kind of my thing that coming into this, I was like, I'm not sure what more they can really tell us in this panel that I think is going to be interesting and or move the needle forward, because especially with the show coming out the following Tuesday, so like literally they were talking at the convention, they're like, hey, it comes out in 3 days here in Japan. um so like they're not going to announce anything there, they're not going to spoil anything too much. But I gotta say, for a panel that ostensibly I came into it probably with some baggage, I enjoyed it thoroughly. This was such a wonderful, wonderful panel with a lot of details, which we're going to highlight here in just a second here. So the full cast of Andor at the panel included Tony Gilroy, Diego Luna, Sane Wollenberg, Adria Jorna, Denise Goff, Genevieve O'Reilly, Kyle Solar, and Alan Tudyk. So Tony Gilroy confirmed that each week will feel like a new movie has come out in regards to Andor season 2, and they said that they have increased the stakes on all fronts. Um, they're getting close to Rogue One, so everything matters so much, Diego Luna said. And Diego Luna even encouraged fans to rewatch Rogue One after the conclusion of Andor season 2, because they will look at the film in an absolutely different way. So really, this is what you should do, folks, is after Andor season 2 comes out, or at least the finale arc of that, then you watch Rogue One, and then from there, it's almost like a prequel that leads straight into the events of Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. We literally have a wonderful through line between all of that there. So it sounds very much like the show is ending with Cassian walking onto the Ring of Kafrene and going off on this adventure that is Rogue One, a Star Wars story. According to Genevieve O'Reilly, uh, we start season 2 of Andor on Chandrila with a wedding. So this is really taking up the bit from the end of season 1, where she's marrying off her daughter, ostensibly for the rebellion, or to make sure that she's the funding that she needs to without the oversight of the Empire checking in on her. Um, but Genevieve O'Reilly is like, she must step out of the shadow in order to speak some truth. So that makes me wonder about Mon Mothma in season 2. I wonder if the Rebels season 3 and 4 material might be included in some way within this series. Deidre Miro is back, of course, and Denise Goff, the actress who portrays the character, is like, yeah, it's much more fascist this season. Cyril Karn has a promotion, new clothes, and is a new place in the start of Andor season 2. On the relationship between Deidre and Cyril, Kyle Solar was like, it's pretty spicy. He's like, it gets really weird. So I don't know what that means. They're like, we don't even have a term really for how to describe it. But I mean, okay, we'll see how it goes. They seem to have like the most weird toxic relationship I could ever imagine for a person to have. So to see that play out on screen will be really wonderful, I think, from a certain point of view. Alan Tudyk is back as K2SO. They have shared at the panel that we'll see how Cassian and K2 met in season 2. So I'm looking at this Cassian and K2 comic book that I bought in 2017, almost very much quickly after the film came out, that tells this story. And I gotta imagine, will that comic be decanonized? I can't imagine that Tony Gilroy is going to keep verbatim everything that happens in that within this story here. Um, He's like, I bet I can, I can bet you is like, I'm not going to be constrained to that. At least maybe, who knows? We'll find out very soon here what exactly it all entails. So that was it for the live stream in terms of important news and updates, I would say. But those in the panel got to actually see the first episode then and there, and also the social media embargo review came out for the show. So some people have seen the first 6 episodes, some people have seen all of it, but across the board, there is a real hype and buzz about Andor season 2. People are even saying it's the best Star Wars of all of Star Wars. Some people are even saying it's some of the best single season of television ever in the history of ever. That's high praise, and I can't wait to see something like that. Not something like that, but I really can't wait to see that series come out, or at least start to come out next Tuesday, April 22nd. Really great stuff. Really great stuff there. the Celebration live stage was abreast with many folks coming through. Rob Breedow from ILM, um, Anthony Daniels stopped by. The Hasbro folks were there. Um, the Beyond Victory new mixed reality is what they were calling it game that is coming out soon for the Oculus Quest. The game looks really fun. It's about kind of about pod racing and all that stuff. There's a tie-in comic that's available for free at Celebration. On Best came back to the Celebration stage, and he even was there to help announce a sequel of sorts, a second season, if you will, for the wonderful show Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy, which is now titled Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy Pieces of the Past. I love it. They showed a little bit of a teaser for it. Jackson is on the poster. It's going to feature Ahsoka Tano literally playing uh, Brickhead Ahsoka from Lego. If you are in the know about Lego, Brickhead is a different type of creation for the Lego brand, and she's literally playing that character and voicing Ahsoka in the series, which I think is awesome. Darth Jar Jar will be back for this, and we'll get to pick up where the events of season one kind of left off, with the whole galaxy being uprooted and everything being changed on this front too. Really glad that the show is getting a second season, and I think if you haven't seen it yet, you'll love it. It's really wonderful. This is a great what if in the Star Wars galaxy, and they're continuing to push the bounds of storytelling, and nothing is off limits here for this. So, all the praises for Rebuild the Galaxy: Pieces of the Past. All the episodes will be premiere on Disney Plus on September 19th. Kyle Solar and Denise Goff stopped by the live stage. They talked again about that weird relationship for Dedra and Cyril. Kyle Soul even went as far as to say it's a funky weird. Um, and Denise Goff really doubled down on the fascism that Deidre Miro is experiencing and pushing on others this season. Diego Luna and Alan Tudyk were also on the Celebration live stage. Um, and Alan Tudyk thinks that K2SO's sassiness grew as he spent more time with Cassian, which is evidently something from the real life relationship that he has with Diego Luna. We also got to see the Ahsoka panel at Star Wars Celebration and on the live stage for those of us that were at home. It brought Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau, and Rosario Dawson all to take the stage for the Ahsoka panel. They talked a bit, I would say just not a bit, but a lot about looking back at the events of the first season. They noted in the panel that season 2 of Ahsoka will start filming in 4 days' time. So early next week, it'll start filming. And there will be 8 episodes. This is what Dave Filoni confirmed, and that they were all written by Dave. This is what he confirmed to Collider as well. And Jon Favreau confirmed that Ahsoka's appearance in The Mandalorian was essentially a pilot for her own series. George Lucas was on set the day that the fight between Ahsoka and Morgan Elsbeth was filmed, and the fan reaction played a huge role in moving the series forward with more live-action Ahsoka stories. So really great to hear that we had a big part in moving that forward. So sign me up for all of that. Dave Filoni noted that he tries to write Star Wars shows so that you can go into them fresh without having to see everything else in the saga to understand. I think Ahsoka is definitely a great entryway for anybody in the Star Wars galaxy, of course, but also it's tip of the iceberg storytelling if you want to go watch Rebels to prepare yourself, or Clone Wars, or watch the entirety of the saga. There's something for you too on that front as well. Hayden Christensen was there at the panel as well. Ashley Eckstein, it was noted, collaborated with the Ahsoka team to bring young Ahsoka to life. And Rosario Dawson noted that it makes sense for Ahsoka to take on a Mandalorian apprentice in terms of the Sabine relationship of it all, since it's an unorthodox choice, very similar in a way to how she was trained by Anakin in such an unorthodox way. It's just continuing that lineage from master to apprentice, and so on and so forth, that we see addressed within the series in many ways. In terms of season 2, we got a little bit of teases in regards to where the story is going. Unfortunately, with the passing of Ray Stevenson after the events, not after the events, but after before season 1 premiered and all that. Unfortunately, with that tragic event, we got the confirmation that Rory McCann is confirmed to take over the role of Balin Skull in season 2, and we got to see a little bit of him in costume for that role. I assume it was probably some test footage that they had done. Um, Dave Filoni confirmed that it'll be Admiral Akbar versus Thrawn in a lot of season 2. Half of the series, he said, will be like a big all out war between the two of them in the galaxy. So wow, really cool on that front. Loth kittens will be a thing. Apparently, kittens' legs are not strong enough yet, so they just roll around from place to place. Sign me up. That sounds like a moneymaker to begin with. Zeb will be in season 2 of Ahsoka. And Dave Filoni also confirmed that the Mortis gods in Ahsoka will be explored even further. And finally, if nothing else more, Anakin Skywalker will be back in Ahsoka season 2, whether it be as a Force ghost or in flashbacks, etc. He'll be there, and that's why he was kind of more involved in the panel than I was originally anticipating. John Knoll stopped by the live stream stage. So did Dave, John, and Rosario. They talked a lot more about Ahsoka and all of that. Dave Filoni again said that half of the season is all a battle. There's going to be a lot more Thrawn, a lot more Hera, a lot more Ezra, and a lot more Chopper. Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds great. If you're a fan of the High Republic, the storytelling initiative that Lucasfilm has been doing over the past couple of years here, some of the authors took the live stream stage, and they promised a bit of a roller coaster ride to finish the story. So get ready for that. Manny Jacinto, the stranger from the Acolyte, dropped by the stage, the live stage as well, and he was able to get one of the first, if not the first, available Hasbro helmet of the stranger. So that was awesome to see him reunited with his mask for this endeavor. Again, we are big fans of the Acolyte here on this podcast. So if we want to see season 2, and if there's a way to continue the story in some way, shape, or form, then sign me up. Finally, in terms of like big news announcements, there was a whole panel covering the upcoming strategy turn-based single-player game called Star Wars Zero Company, which is a whole new story video game that is set to take place during the Clone Wars, and it's coming in 2026. We got a first look trailer at that, and kind of some more story details about the team. You kind of play this main character, Hawks, who is completely customizable, and you build your team around you to create your own Zero Company. And based off of the iterations, permutations, combinations of the characters that you have around you, you're going to have a different story for this video game. Gordy Hobb is providing music for Zero Company. He's done the work for the Star Wars Jedi series, as well as Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. So he's definitely very versed in this work. There's a Jedi Padawan named Tel Ria, who is a Tognath Jedi, who you may recognize the character design as being, or the alien species is most likely being the Two Tubes characters from both Andor and Rogue One, a Star Wars story. The Ring of Kafrene will be in Zero Company, the planet that you see Cassian introduced on in Andor. Not in Andor, but in Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Doug Chang stopped by the live stage to chat about his upcoming book that chronicles probably most of his entire career to this point. And he said there's going to be over 2,300 pieces of art to review, going from his high school days all the way through the current work that he's doing now. And folks, that was day 2 of Star Wars Celebration. There was so much packed into this day alone to begin with. This would be enough for an entirety of a Star Wars Celebration weekend back in the day. There was information on Andor Season 2. People even got to see the first episode. All the teases for Ahsoka Season 2. So many things there. Star Wars Zero Company. All these wonderful things happened on day 2. And we still have one more day to go, folks. There is a whole plethora of stuff to come out for this third day. There is a Star Wars Visions panel that's going to be taking place, the Parks panel, and also, for those of us at home that aren't in Tokyo right now, the announcement of when and where Star Wars Celebration will take place next. And I think I speak for everyone when I say very excited to see what will come of that. So, folks, on the other side of this very short break, we'll be back with our day 3 coverage of Star Wars Celebration. Stay tuned. All right, folks, welcome back to Force Ghost Conversations. Day 3 of Star Wars Celebration has just passed, and although Star Wars Celebration 2025 is over and we had a lot of fun, there is a lot of news that came out today, or at least things to talk about. That, of course, they had several panels throughout the course of the day, including Visions Volume 3. There was some parks news. So just some helpful details and talking points I wanted to note as we wrap up our celebration 2025 coverage. Of course, at the end, if you didn't find out already, we'll tell you where the next celebration is going to be and when. All right, folks. So let's get into the Visions Volume 3 panel, which was the big marquee panel of the day, I would say. Um, James Waugh, the executive producer, was on the stage, kind of getting it kicked off and started. They announced that the following studios are for Volume 3 and taking part in the anime process for this series. That includes Kamikaze Duga, Studio Trigger, Kinema Citrus, Production IG, David Production, Anima, Polygon Pictures, Project Studio Q, and Wit Studio. Three of those are actually returning studios from Visions Volume 1, and those are completing sequels to the stories of The Duel, The Village Bride, and The Ninth Jedi in Volume 3. Um, so the to start, The Duel, one of my favorite things from Visions Volume 1, the sequel is titled The Duel Payback. And in The Duel Payback, the Ronin will encounter a Grand Jedi Master whom they have a prior history with. So very interesting on that one. Um, the sequel to The Village Bride from Volume 1 is titled The Lost Ones, and it will examine the experience of family members of Order 66 victims. And honestly, that sounds really intriguing just from a story perspective there. The fact that these families know that their family members are Jedi and that they've been hunted down and murdered. What does that do for a family? What does that do for if they're potential force sensitives? Are they being harassed? Let's dive into that further. I'm very excited for what that could entail. And the Ninth Jedi sequel from Volume 1 is titled The Ninth Jedi Child of Hope. So hopefully we'll get some more details on that in the future. But for some of the new stories there, we got one titled Yuko's Treasure. It features a character named Billy that has a microwave belly who just is absolutely adorable. And that they're a caretaker droid and they're taking care of this young orphan named Yuko. They showed a little clip there. It was absolutely to die for. Sign me up for it. There's another new story called The Smuggler, and that follows the antics of a rogue akin to Han Solo. Furthermore, there's one titled The Bounty Hunters, another one titled The Song of Four Wings. Another story is titled The Bird of Paradise, which I gotta tell you, the animation was absolutely beautiful and breathtaking in that story so far. That one is like the one that's like standing out to me right now, just based off of like, wow, that is a literally I could print off a picture of the animation itself. I mean, you could just for any of these, but like this one is like a big standout for me to be like, all right, let's put a poster of that on the wall there and call it a day. And there's the last one of the new stories is called Black, and we got the confirmation that Visions Volume 3 will premiere on Disney Plus on October 29th. So you just have a few more months until Visions Volume 3 comes out. If you haven't checked out Visions Volume 1 or 2 yet, you can certainly do that on Disney Plus now, and you have ample time between now and the convention. Or not the convention, but the release date of Volume 3. Um, so they also gave us this big surprise in the panel, which is the fact that there's going to be something called Star Wars Vision Presents, which will allow these various studios or whoever studio that they want to take a more long form approach to their storytelling. Basically what that means is they're expanding these stories into the premise is that they're short anime stories, so roughly 10, 15, 20, 25 minutes or so, and expanding that further. And for the first one that they're doing here, which is the Ninth Jedi, they're going to turn that into a limited series, so it'll be called Star Wars Visions Presents the Ninth Jedi, and that will premiere on Disney Plus in 2026. But I gotta tell you, from what they have shown, they showed a little sizzle reel. Visions Volume 3 looks fantastic just from that alone, and I cannot wait for the show to come out. Um, Ahmad Best came back to the celebration stage and announced that Darth Jar Jar will have will be in Fortnite. They're going to be doing a big Star Wars season. So starting in early May, I think May 2nd, they said that there will be new Star Wars gameplay every week through June 7th. So whatever that is, that's a full season in Fortnite. Dark Jar Jar will have Force Lightning, and that's really all that I know. I don't know anything about Fortnite, so I can't tell you about the gameplay or anything like that. So more further details, but that's kind of the gist of what was presented at the Celebration Live stage there. Then, in terms of parks news, there was a panel today that gave a lot of details, I will say, about the upcoming uh, revamped experience, let's call it, for Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. And there's going to be 4 new sequences. Planets that you can go to. So you're going to go to Tatooine first, and through this endeavor, you're going to be enlisted uh, in with Hondo Naka. And through your work with Hondo, then you'll help the Mandalorian and Grogu um, for the journey that you're going to go on here. So you'll go to Tatooine, fly through the bones of a crate dragon, and then there's potential of going to Bespin, Coruscant, or the second Death Star wreckage as other experiences potentially there. So the engineer, when you're doing this experience, will have the ability to interact with the Mandalorian and Grogu in the ride, and even the engineer then will be able to pick where the next destination you go after Tatooine there. So I think one of the big criticisms of the ride to this point is that the engineer is just kind of pushing buttons, and it's not like a gunner or the pilot, right? I think the pilot is the one that is most sought after in terms of I want to do that when I get on this ride. And this kind of flips that a little bit there, where for this experience, at least, I think a lot of people will be wanting to be the engineer just because of that interactive aspect there. So I think that's them learning and moving forward with this information and trying to improve the ride experience overall for everybody to make those repeat rides um, much more engaging, I will say. So additionally, there was a wonderful, wonderful panel called the Heroic Sidekicks of Star Wars, and it was hosted by Ashley Eckstein and featured conversations with Anthony Daniels, Alan Tudyk, and Ahmad Best as the panelists. Um, and I got to tell you, this was a great conversation with wonderful tidbits into the acting process of these characters. And they also joked a lot about the fact that they have main character energy. They're not just sidekicks. They had wonderful banter between all of them there. I learned that Ahmad Best is responsible for creating Jar Jar's iconic voice. So originally he was not supposed to be the voice, though, just the mocap. And then he told George, "Hey, I can do voices." And then through a couple of tapes he sent in, he just kind of stumbled into doing the voice on top of it too. The Jar Jar voice that we hear in The Phantom Menace and beyond was the voice that Amma Best used to make for his nieces and nephews when they were having fun. I think the panel, especially for the folks that were on the panel, right? Both all three Anthony Daniels, Alan Tudyk, and Ahmed Best. They noted how it's important, at least for their performances, to note the authenticity, therefore, of the performance, since they are also characters that are doing the voice plus the motion and body acting, which is something I've never really thought of before. Because it's like, as Anthony Daniels kind of noted, it's one through line from brain to the execution of it across the board. And they had great points about fandom and the work that actors put in for fans. So I think that was a really wonderful panel. It was live streamed, so you can definitely go watch that and see all the fun bits and banter back and forth that they had with each other. So totally all on board for that, folks. And ultimately, that's the big news that took place over the course of the day until we get to the closing ceremony here. And this is, of course, where they wrap up things up, and then everyone gathers and they say, all right, this is where we're going to have the next celebration, and where and when. So with the closing of Celebration 2025, we got the announcement that the next celebration will take place in 2027 to coincide with the 50th anniversary of Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. But where? So the ultimate answer to that is that Star Wars Celebration 2027 will take place in Los Angeles at the LA Convention Center, April 1st through 4th. Now, that is awesome. That is big. I just did some quick Googling here, and the LA Convention Center is literally right beside the Crypto.com arena, which is where the Los Angeles Kings play, the LA Lakers play. It is a full state of the art facility there. So I gotta imagine it's walking just like literally across the street. It's their neighbor to that. So I gotta imagine they did that for a reason because they want to do those big panels, similarly to what they did for D23 back in August, where they had the main panels of the day in the Honda Center, which is where the Anaheim Ducks play. A big hockey arena can fit upwards of 20,000 people, and I'm sure the Crypto.com arena has similar capacities there. So I got to think 50th anniversary panel is on the table. Whatever animation that they're going to be talking about, then probably Maul, the Maul show series that's coming out. We'll have a second season probably by that point in the works, and they'll talk about that there and reflect on the first season. Star Wars Starfighter will be talked about then. 10th anniversary of The Last Jedi. Um, so many things that could potentially be on the table for that experience there. So I think that is brilliant. It's in the heart of LA, right? You don't need to get to LAX and then take an hour Uber to the Anaheim area. Um, no, and it's still like amidst everything there. So your ton of hotel options, lots of infrastructure around there, easy to and fro from downtown to elsewhere in the LA area. So very excited for this answer. It's kind of where I speculated it would be, just to make it easier for the actors, cast, and crew to participate and be involved, because it's the 50th anniversary of A New Hope, and this is a very meaningful thing for a lot of people, and me included, and I can't wait to be there. So first and foremost, I will be there, folks. There's no way I am missing this one. This is definitely going to be a convention that I will be boots on the ground for, reporting live from all the places that I'm able to get into. So I hope to see you all there. And really, that concludes our recap extravaganza for Star Wars Celebration 2025 in Tokyo, Japan. Thank you to everybody for listening to this episode. I hope that you enjoyed the variety of programming that we offered over the last couple of days, and to make it more of a communal experience and to report on all the news and make it easy for everybody, but also just to create this atmosphere of fun, to try our best. It's not possible, but we're trying at least to replicate whatever experience that you would have in person, but from home. I know not everyone can always get there. There's always, life hits us in various different ways. It's sometimes not feasible for people to go across oceans literally to get to places. And this is I think the best case scenario of trying to mitigate some of those and to create some community around this. So I hope that you either joined us for all of it or some of it. So we did the Instagram Ask Me Anything on Thursday, which we had some people join in with that. It was a lot of fun. We've live tweeted, well, didn't tweet it all, but we were on Threads and Blue Sky for the all the live stream days. I was burning all the midnight oil. I'm recording this at 3:18 local time, personally, in the East Coast of the United States, and then going to publish this immediately uh, to you all, so you can enjoy it throughout the rest of the week here and listen at your leisure. But we also did a Andor watch along earlier today, before the live stream started, and it was just a lot of fun to engage with folks on us on the social channels. And we are a working podcast, so I hope that you continue listening to us week in and week out. Of course, Andor conversations start next week, so we'll continue doing that, and then we'll get back into our Revenge of the Sith anniversary discussions, and you don't want to miss out on those. Trust me, they've been a lot of fun to do, and I'm hoping to get maybe one more scheduled in here. So we've got a lot coming up on that front. Tales of the Underworld is certainly around the corner. Visions Volume 3, Rebuild the Galaxy, Pieces of the Past. There's so much Star Wars goodness. Jurassic Park, a new Jurassic Park film is coming this summer. 50th anniversary of Jaws is also around the corner, and that's going to get a re-release. Revenge of the Sith is back in cinemas too. This is a wonderful time to be a fan of all this stuff, and I hope that you join along the ride for cozy deep dive discussions into all this stuff that we talk about on a weekly basis here. So, folks, that is all that I had for this discussion here. Thanks again for being a part of this wonderful community and celebrating Star Wars. This is a wonderful time, and this is arguably, I think, the best experience that possibly can have as Star Wars fans. We realize that there are more of us. we're together as a community. We can fight through all the adversity. I've been to Celebration myself, and when you're there, there's never a a word of negativity spoken at all, and at least in my experience, it's very positive, uplifting. We celebrate our differences. We come together as a community. We look forward to the future. We respect the past, and we live in the present too. And it's a wonderful experience. So I hope that you're able to come out to Los Angeles and celebrate Star Wars for the 50th anniversary with us there. And that's all I got to say on this matter, folks. So thanks again for listening. We'll be back next week with Andor. Season 2, we'll talk about the first 3 episodes. We've got Colby from the Colby Cast coming on to chat those episodes with us. And can't wait. Let's dive into it. So, folks, thanks again for participating and in this episode, and for listening and doing all the fun stuff. Of course, if you want to continue the conversation, we're available on X, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Threads, Blue Sky. Just search for Force Ghost Conversations, and we'll be there in some way, shape, or form. If you've got a friend that's into Star Wars too, forward them our podcast, and like the podcast. I don't know how they do it these days. Rate us, give us a subscribe to us, follow us, whatever your podcast platform of choice does, so you make sure you do not miss out on future episodes. So folks, thanks again. May the force be with you. Take care.